Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be a quick reading update and then a full review of Unity by Jeremy Robinson. And I I have thoughts about that book. I wish it could have been like the giant fighting robot versus monster book of my dreams, but it just wasn't. It was fine. I will say it wasn't like the worst book I've ever read by any means, and it could have been, I think, a lot better, but I will get into the full review. I also wanted to say I've been reading Attack on Titan. I just finished the 5th book, so I'm kind of going through it slowly. Also, I think they only have like it on Kindle Unlimited, which is how I've been reading it, up through like book 7 or 8, maybe a little bit more than that, but not much. So I'm not sure how quickly I'll be able to get through them if I have to start buying them, because that's quite an expensive endeavor. And I don't have a unlimited book, funds. So, but I'm excited to keep reading that. I've really been enjoying it, but it is a bit slow going with where we're at in the story, and I'm hoping to get more reveals and hopefully a little bit more of the mystery cleared up soon. But yes, that's where I'm at with Attack on Titan. I also started Sky in the Deep, which I'll put here. If anyone wants to buddy read that, let me know. Or if you have read it and you liked it, let me know, because I'm not sold on the young female Viking story. I just don't know. I'm not connecting with it as much as I would have hoped, but I will power through. So let me know if you read it, if you recommend it, or if you have any thoughts about that book. And then I'm also finishing up A Fractured Mind. So let's talk about Unity by Jeremy Robinson, and I'll put it there. I wanted this to be a really good read. I was like, oh, this is like everything that I like. I really like Godzilla movies. I like Pacific Rim, just the first one. We do not talk about that second movie. I'm sorry. I was so disappointed. I'm like one of the people that bought tickets early, like went to one of the first showings with my husband to see Pacific Rim 2 because I love the first movie, and I was so disappointed. So, and if you love it, you love it. Like, that's fine, but not for me. So yeah, Pacific Rim, Godzilla, I like it. I'm into that kind of stuff. I love monster books. Unity is different. It's, I would say it's dystopian, young adult, and in some of the ways that are really not good. I don't want to compare it to like Hunger Games and Divergent, but you kind of can't get away from that with the, female character that's, kind of withdrawn, has the chip on her shoulder. She's got kind of a different name. So in this case with Unity, we have Effie, nickname F-Bomb. I could not even, I wanted to roll my eyes so hard at that. I'm like, why on earth is her name F-Bomb? I know why they're trying to say it's because she is different. She's not like other girls. She swears, and she's, she's got an attitude problem, and she's, she'll beat you up. And I'm like, okay, we're going there. We're going to the not like other girls category, which I despise. And we need to get away from this. I don't care if you swear. This does not make you unique. You're not special because you have a bad attitude and you swear. Girl or boy, this is not okay. Stop this. This is not character development either. I can swear. It doesn't make me a different person. Thank you. And I won't start swearing. So anyway, we have Effie being transported with some other children that are all gifted. They're all different ages. I want to say they're all in their teens. She's 16, and they're, I think, ranging from 13 to 18, the oldest that they end up being in the book. So they're being transported. They don't even know where. They're just on the transports, and immediately things go wrong. The transports get hit or something happens, a malfunction. All of the 3 transports go down, and only so many people survive. So now it's Effie on this island with the survivors of the transport crash, and they're trying to figure out what happened. Now Effie is part of a group that is we're led to believe this has been funded by some billionaire. This is a group called Unity. So there is the point, which is the top, the support, and then the base. So it's a triangle, and these are the different positions. So you have 3 people. Effie is a point, then she has a support, and then there's a base. And you need these 3 people to form the Unity triangle, and that's your little division or your little group that you're in to be able to complete your missions. We don't know what the missions are. She doesn't even know. She's had no training. She's been in Unity for 3 weeks, and she was in the foster care system and then just went into Unity and has no clue what's going on. but they were like, you're perfect. You should be a point. We just know with your attitude and your upbringing, you'll be a point for whatever reason. So she starts helping the kids to, survive on the island. And I'm like, this is interesting. We're going at a fast pace, but she's had to deal with like people dying already these are, not important characters. So far we have with her Daniel, Gizmo, Gwen, and Mandy are, I think, all the survivors so far. So they're just, kind of trying to make it. They find, trying to find shelter on this island. And I thought this is interesting. We're like, this could be very, cool survival story. And then maybe they'll and I knew monsters and mechs were going to factor in. And I do have props to explain the story later. So here's my kaiju that I'll be using that my husband painted. And I got a couple of mechs to explain the story and the fighting later. Don't worry, you have something to look forward to. So yeah, so she's on the island. And I feel like this problem with this book is that it just couldn't sit with anything. Overall, I would give this book like 3.5 stars. So that's my rating if you want to know. You don't want to know the full spoilers of the book. But it couldn't sit with a moment. We had to go on to next action scene, next introduction of characters, next thing. And they just tried to do, the author tried to do so much in this book that just made it seem overwhelming to me, where I was like, he could have stopped here and it would have been more impactful and we would have known more about the characters. Everyone but Effie is a non-character. They just exist to make her seem more competent or seem like she's needed in the story. I don't feel like any of the other characters had much to them. A lot of them are just going to be characters that come on to die so that we can have our red shirts to go out and, they gotta die. Somebody's got to, otherwise there's no stakes in these stories. So they soon realize that there are other people on this island, and they were led to believe that, they were going there and they had no idea that other people had already been sent. They don't know who these people are. They find dead bodies. Obviously something bad has happened. So later her and Mandy go out, and it's not that much, they basically get shelter and then they immediately go out. And her and Mandy, who doesn't like her, Mandy thinks she's trash, and she's has a very antagonistic attitude towards Effie, which is warranted. I'm not going to get into all the backstory, but yes, there's a reason. And obviously Mandy in her attitude is a lot like Effie. And so they go, and Mandy is captured by this guy, and he's there with his dog. He's crazy. He seems totally out of it, insane. He might be a cannibal. You don't know, just the way he's talking. He's just super off. And so Effie doesn't know what to do. The guy's got a gun. He's about to shoot Mandy, and Effie ends up shooting the dog to save herself. The guy shoots Mandy. Mandy dies. And eventually, after a while, Effie kills the guy. So then you're like, okay, so there's these other people on the island. There's these guys. You don't know how long they've been there. Have they turned to cannibalism? Are they just all insane like this one? He's talking about Quinlan, and he's, it looks like they might have been at one point part of Unity. So there's all this intrigue. What's going to happen? And she's got to run away and escape now. And I'm kind of just going through the plot very quickly because I can't dwell too much on anything. This will be a really long video. And the book doesn't stay with anything for very long either. It's we're going. So more people on the transports, which is what they were trying to find, were there any other survivors? So after Effie kills that guy, she gets saved while she's running away from the other guys that were part, with him, that are also evil, or, we assume, and they are trying to hunt her down, and who knows what will happen if she gets caught. She gets saved by Hutch, and Hutch is Mandy's older brother. Mandy's dead, thanks to Effie mostly. And he is also, most importantly, he is Effie's support. So in her triangle unit, she's the point, Hutch is her support, and then I think her base is another girl named, oh, now I won't be able to remember it. Anyway, I'll put the name there about what her base is. I remember it's a girl, it's her friend, and I don't remember her name. I want to say it's Sig, but it's not. I don't think it's Sig. I won't be able to remember. I'll put it there. So anyway, that's her team. So she's reunited with Hutch, and she realizes like, Effie's not going to have a big character development, so don't hope for much. But she does realize, like, she treated Hutch really badly during their very short amount of training together, not realizing that, like, his whole job is to support her. That's his literal job. All he is supposed to do is be her support. And she made it super hard for him. She was really difficult to work with. She treated him like crap because he was always following her around. And that's his job. And now she's realizing, oh yeah, this was all what we were supposed to do. This was our training. He was following it and I was being horrible. So they figure out that there have these other guys on the island, and their leader has an exoframe, which is basically like a suit that he can put on, kind of like a small mech that he's able to fight in, and he's been kind of ruling over the island with, you know, an iron fist, as it were. Maybe. Anyway, getting to the point that he is ruling over the island, and they don't know what to do. They can't really escape because if they confront him, then it's going to go bad. So Effie and Hutch try and rescue another group of, you know, survivors from their crashed transports, and they end up getting rescued by another guy named Vegas, who was part of the original group that was sent down. So Unity, like a year ago, sent down a bunch of guys that were military trained, and they're like, I think they're like 18 years old. But these are all highly trained military people that were on the island, and Unity sent them. And then a year went by, things went crazy, went, you know, real Lord of the Flies down there. And then they were like, oh, well, I guess we'll send kids down next. So these guys, like, it went bad and they lost track of them and they were sabotaging the cameras. And so Quinlan ended up being the leader of one group, Vegas is the leader of another, and they've just kind of been like fighting and like, you know, killing each other, you know, one by one in these two groups of these highly trained military people. And now there's a bunch of kids there. So Vegas takes them back as this all happening. Like they're being chased by Quinlan, like they get saved, but then, you know, they've got more people, so they've got to try and get the kids back. You know, people are dying. Effie shoots one of the guys that was part of the other military group. And they end up getting back to a base where they get confronted by Quinlan in the mech. Like I'm saying, this is going, like, not in a good way. Because when Hutch saves Effie and they have, like, their moment of him rescuing her, we needed to, like, sit with that. We need to be able to feel what is going on in Effie's mind as, like, she's realizing what needs to be done and why, you know, unity is important, and her feelings about the people and how she led, you know, Hutch's sister to basically her death. All these things that could be really interesting and could have an interesting dynamic in the group are just going through so quickly. And when they're together, Hutch and Effie, and they're hiding, he shows her like a giant arm of a mech that's just sitting there, and she's like, oh my gosh, a giant like robot arm. It's like huge, and how did that get here? And it's like a little bit of mystery. Like, we could have stopped there, fleshed out so much more of the characters on the island and the people and the dynamic, and had that be the end of the first book. But instead we've got to like keep going. So they have the showdown with Quinlan, and he's in the mech, and it's like he's very disturbed, and you know, he's obviously like let things get to him, and he's kind of crazy, and you can tell he hasn't gotten out of the mech in a long time because he's like not shaved, not clean. He's probably too afraid to like actually leave and do things because he knows once he's out of this suit, he's just, you know, prey. Like, he's just gonna get killed by one of his own people. So yeah, not good. So more people die. There's kind of like side people that didn't really even get really introduced. And they eventually escape, and you think Quinlan has been killed, like Effie shoots him. So the fighting kind of is gonna stop after, you know, more people die, but Quinlan's not dead. They end up escaping from him into an underground base that they find, and they're able to use their Unity markings to get in. It's so long. It's so much. So they find the real mechs. They find the real Unity base, which they were always supposed to find, but they were given no instructions for, because why not just send children down with no instructions and hope for the best? So they find their real mechs, which I was hoping they would be kind of like this, but these are like real solid, chunky boys, and they get these ones, which I think are lighter and like more like, woo, we can move around a lot more. I'm just what I pictured in my mind. And I used my husband's Mech Warriors. I think they're called Battletech guys. But anyway, so they find those down in this underground bunker, and they're huge. They're like huge robots, and they have no idea why. And Vegas has kind of been hinting at the idea that this was all training to protect them from aliens. This is mentioned by him that there was, when the Mars rover went up and when they actually did land on Mars, that something happened up there, but like the government didn't tell anybody. And so in reality, all of this prep has been to prep you for alien attack. So Quinlan finds them. He's not dead. He didn't get killed. Finds them in the underground bunker. You think there's going to be this big showdown. And as all of that's happening, they turn on these monitors down below that have cameras all over Earth and satellite feeds, and monsters are attacking all over Earth. People are dying. It's mayhem, wreaking havoc. So this, the kaiju have come, and in reality, yes, they were always supposed to fight the robots. Were supposed to fight these monsters that they apparently knew were coming, but told no one about. So now Earth is being overrun with monsters. And they're seeing it all happen on these live feeds. And so like, Quinlan, stop, like we can't fight amongst ourselves. And he's like, no, I let everything burn. Some people just want to watch the world burn, and that person is Quinlan. So they kill him, finally, and he's not an issue anymore. So now they have to figure out what to do. They have their mechs. Everyone apparently has one that's specific to them because Effie's has her name on it, F-bomb or whatever. And so they know, like, hey, this was always the plan. They sent us down here with these giant mechs and they want us to do something. We don't know what. So, of course, the last part of the book is devoted to a monster finding them. And he is, finds their island and they have to fight it with the mechs. And so they all get in. And I know this part, like I said, this should have been broken up to be more books, but whatever. So they're gonna have their big fight, and it's going to be like, Effie's injured at this point. She's been roughed up several times and shot. So she's not even in the beginning of the fight. She sends out all the other people and she's the point, and she's gonna just be the leader. And they've kind of all accepted for whatever reason that the 16-year-old girl is their best shot at a good leader of their team. Okay, so she takes the lead. She's in the base, and all the other people go out in their mechs, start fighting. And it seems like it's going to work, and they're going to be able to defeat the monster until the monster unleashes what is apparently some kind of psychological warfare, that the monster can get into your head and make you like live your worst fear. So, the monster opens up all of its little armor scales. Look, I have. So armor scales, like they open up, and this monster has like these like tentacles that come out, and as soon as it does, it like releases some kind of something into the air or something. I don't know how it reaches your mind, but gets into your head. And so everybody is crippled by fear and cannot fight the monster. So Effie, being apparently the only one who can overcome her fears, okay, she is able to overcome her greatest fear, which is, something she dealt with back in her foster home of having, this guy who beat her, but eventually she ended up killing him anyway. This is her backstory. So she can overcome it. She overcomes her fears. She gets her Neuralink basically is hooked up mentally to her other friends who are her support Hutch and her base Sig. I think it's Sig. I'll put it there. So she goes out and kills the kaiju. I just love having props. Make fun of me all you want. It helps the story. So she kills the kaiju, and it's a long drawn out battle, and it's probably one of the better written scenes in the book because there's real stakes and real drama, and you don't know if the other people are going to make it. But ironically, most of the people killed in this book are killed by other humans in the beginning and not killed by this monster. He hardly gets, I don't think the monster actually kills anybody significant to the plot or anyone in this part at all. I think they all make it because they're in their mechs, so they're pretty well protected. So they kill the monster, and they're like, we can do it. We can overcome. We can fight. We think there's 10,000 of these monsters by our best guess, and they're overrunning the planet, but we know we can defeat them. We have to go kill them one by one. I guess that's what we're gonna have to do. So they're back at the base. The epilogue is her getting a communication, finally. One of the smart base kids, I don't remember if it's Gizmo or Daniel at this point. Like I said, these are not real characters. These are just people in the story that have very little to them. So they are able to reach out. They hear back. Yes, there are other Unity bases that did survive. They all apparently have these young prodigy kids. and there's like 450 of them, and they all have these mechs, and they can fight. It's going to be a big, hard battle with, very bad odds, if there's 10,000 of these monsters and 450 of these, kids, soldiers. So yeah, that's kind of how it ends. Like there's a little bit of hope, but it's, it's going to be difficult. And so that's kind of, I don't know. It just so much. And Effie is strong female character. She has nothing to her. I wanted to like her. I didn't. I mean, she is, got the nickname and the, orange tipped hair. And I mean, she is I'm a rebellious teen stereotype. And I could not. I was just like, please don't make her like that. And then what I'm thinking is being set up is a love triangle, which, no, please, the last thing we do not need. But Hutch, obviously being her base, is very emotionally connected to her. So her emotional connection is to Hutch. And that's kind of set up, and a little, a connection is implied. But then Vegas, who she describes as a beefcake. Thank you for that. Is her like physical attraction. Like she's attracted to him. He's a good looking guy apparently. And she's definitely like a 16-year-old, which please stop this. It's the end of the world. This is not repopulate the earth time. This is fighting time. All of this is later. I don't want to hear this. And it was so silly to like throw in this very random, like, oh, they looked at each other and there's a pause and like a connection and something. Also, I felt like there was a very odd speech about men and like men being more aggressive and violent versus women. And I was like, what does this have to do with anything? I don't know what point you're trying to make as you're literally having your female teen soldier go shoot people and murder them. Like, I don't know what you're trying to say. I felt like the book wanted to say something, and I'm just not sure that it accomplished that in any kind of like real way. I also felt like they wanted to have it established that Effie was this really strong, really smart character, when I'm like, if anything, Effie is the reason that you wouldn't want women in the military. Like, she makes a bunch of really terrible decisions. She's literally rejecting the one person who is her support, who is the only person that is trained to be with her to make her life easier. But no, I have a chip on my shoulder, so that won't work. Also, she's emotionally driven. At one point, she just shoots a guy because she wants revenge. And it's very much like she didn't need to kill him, but she's like, I'm going to prove that I will kill people, which is the oddest thing. Why would you have her do that? This is not like self-defense. And she is also as like, she's as competent or as like, in her military stuff, or as incompetent as the story needs. Like, she is sometimes a crack shot. She's sometimes able to do really like impressive things with her 3 weeks of training that she got. And sometimes she is totally unable to fight back, totally unable to, go up against these guys, which would make perfect sense that she wouldn't be able to go against military trained individuals, but she can sometimes and she can't sometimes. It's insane to me that the author was like, okay, make it so she's only had 3 weeks of training, but she can take a punch and she can take a hit. And why can't she? Why? We have no reason to, like, is she been trained? Most 16-year-old girls are not going to be able to take a punch from a full-grown man. It's just not how it is. So give me an explanation that makes sense and I'll accept it. Like, she had training. Like the other kids who are all prodigies, maybe she's just built a different way to where she can take these hits. Maybe she has a higher pain tolerance. There are people who literally don't feel pain, so she could have something like that. But they're just like, no, Effie's as great as we need her to be, or as terrible as we need her to be, just to fit the plot. I didn't like that. It annoyed me. Her character could have been better. I didn't dislike her that much. Like, she's not annoying as a female character to where I was like bothered by her, because I just was like, oh, you could be a lot better. They could have done something more with you. You could have had real growth and character development, and it would have been more interesting. But I just feel that overall she was underdeveloped, and she was the plot kept her from really being able to do anything interesting. I was like, okay, now you're interested in this person, and now you're going to shoot this guy, and now you're going to do this. And it's like, she didn't have a lot of real growth or change. and I don't know what they're going to do with her. I assume that the next book will focus more on her leadership role, you know, because why wouldn't you have a 16-year-old leading your whole military? I mean, the amount of like work I'm having to do on behalf of this book to be like, okay, so they sent these kids down with hardly any training. Yes, even if they're geniuses, why would you send children? Why would there be no adults? Why would they not know the mission? Why would they not know anything? It's like, it seems like the attack happened and everyone was so surprised that they just shoved these kids on transports and hoped for the best, which I'm like, if you had any kind of thing set up, you would have stuff in place to make sure that it wasn't just so random, like they weren't just thrown on this island. But anyway, I feel like this is already such a long video. I apologize. I guess I just had more to say about this book than I thought. So that's the book, Unity. It's fine. I'm not sure I will keep reading this series. If it would have focused more on one aspect of it, I think it would have been more interesting. Definitely, like if it would have started with just the human aspect and the her against the military trained men and the island and having to live there and survive. And then at the end, they find the giant robot arm and it was like, oh, what's really going on? You could have ended that on like such a cool cliffhanger and then had the next book be the monsters and the fighting, because I was just overwhelmed with like, what now? Who? And then our mini boss fight with Quinlan, and then now we're gonna have our big boss fight. I just don't know. It just didn't work for me as much. So that's everything I got to reading this last week, and I'm hoping to finish up a couple more books, and then I'll hopefully be able to put out a video talking about all of that, and I'm going to be doing a full video, hopefully for Lord of the Flies, after the first week of February, because that's my buddy read for that month. Let me know what you guys are reading, and I'll talk to you soon.